Hey guys, so for today's video, I'm going to be telling you all about the white cloud mountain minnow. Well guys, here is my white cloud minnow tank. It's just a standard 5-gallon aquarium, nothing special. And in here, I think I have around 6 white cloud minnows. Now these fish are definitely my favorite fish. I just love the color on them. You can see they have nice red and white fins, and they do this nice little fin flaring behavior, which is super cool, and you can see all the colors on them. And they're usually super cheap. I got mine as feeder fish for 20 cents, so the most you'll ever pay for these guys is maybe a few dollars. There are a few different varieties of this fish. There's the long fin version that just looks the exact same as the ones you're seeing now, except they have longer fins. And then there's the golden one that looks the same, except it's golden, which is pretty cool. And the long fin version and the golden version are typically a little bit more expensive. But if you're a beginner and just started keeping fish, I would definitely recommend keeping this fish because it is super easy to keep. One of the reasons why I really like this fish is because it's a cooler water fish and it doesn't require a heater like most tropical fish that you can buy at the pet store. So the ideal temperature to keep these fish is around 60 and 70 degrees, but you can definitely keep them a little bit warmer or a little bit cooler. It's also super common for people to keep these fish out in ponds during the summer months when it's not so cold, but these fish can endure temperatures as low as 40 degrees. And I've even heard of people keeping these fish outside over winter and having ice form over the pond. So a heater is just one less thing you have to buy, but they are a little bit picky towards warmer water. Now you don't really want to keep these fish much higher than 75 degrees because they get a little bit stressed, and if they're kept in warm water all their life, their lifespan tends to decrease. And given the proper care, these guys can live up to 5 or 6 years. And as far as water parameters go, they're pretty forgiving. They can pretty much survive a pH anywhere from around 6.5 all the way to 8, but it's best to be somewhere in the middle of those two numbers. And they're more tolerant to nitrate and nitrite, which makes it ideal for beginners, but you still want to keep those numbers down. These fish are also nice because they're super peaceful and highly unlikely to attack any of your other fish. I'm even keeping mine with some shrimp and they don't seem to mind them at all. I'm sure occasionally they might prey on some of the smaller baby shrimp, but it's nothing too crazy. But be careful because these fish are commonly eaten by larger fish, so just beware if you have any bigger fish in your tank. White cloud minnows are also a shoaling fish. This just means they like to be kept in groups, and I recommend at least getting 5 of them just so they'll be comfortable. But if you have the room, more is always better. So for tank size, I wouldn't go any smaller than a 5-gallon aquarium with maybe 10, and 10 is kind of pushing it. Plus these fish are relatively easy to breed, so once you get a couple, I'm sure you might get some more. So don't be surprised if you see some fry floating around your tank. I did a separate video on breeding these white cloud minnows, so I'll leave a link in the description and a card up in the right hand corner. And as for feeding, these fish are not picky eaters at all. I've just been feeding them some flake food their entire lives and they seem to be doing great. But if you want to breed them, frozen foods and live foods tend to encourage breeding behavior. But while I'm talking about food, let's go ahead and feed them. Like I said, I just feed them this flake food and they seem to be doing just fine. And occasionally I throw in an algae wafer for the shrimp in here and they usually eat off of that too. As far as how often I feed these fish, I usually go every other day, and sometimes I don't feed them for like 5 days. So they're not super picky as long as they're getting some amount of food, but feeding them every other day is what I recommend. Also, a little history slash fun fact about these minnows is that they're endangered in the wild. They're native to China and they're actually thought to be extinct for quite some time, but a small population of them was found, so they're not completely extinct in the wild. It's just kind of cool that you're keeping an endangered fish. But yeah, I don't have much more to say about these minnows, except if you haven't kept them, I highly recommend you do. Well guys, that's it for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed this little care guide, and if you want to see more fish tank related content, go ahead and like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys on the next video.